My name is Savannah Calder, and I play Jo, and my pronouns are she, her.
My name is Kevin Cantor, my pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I play Casey.
My name is Armand Fields, my pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I play the role of Rexy and Jason.
Which is your favorite?
My name is Porter Simmons, and my pronouns are he, him, his, and I play Miss Tracy Mills.
And he's gonna look drop it at the camera. What's the show about?
The show is about a straight married Elvis impersonator who is no longer bringing in the crowds and is fired from his job and replaced by a B-string drag queen act. And by
some shade.
Am I wrong? And once he's fired from that job and replaced by the drag queens, he, by engaging with in art form in a community that he was otherwise unfamiliar with, comes to learn a lot about himself and the way that he wishes to navigate in the world. Yeah, that's what the show's about.
You've done this like
This is my third time in the show, but my first time playing the role of Casey.
Oh.
And yeah, it's just a really fun show. It's a show that I think centers joy, which is a really wonderful and rare thing, especially in shows that explore narratives that center the LGBTQ community. I think too often when we put those narratives on stage, it can be in shows that center that community's trauma. And what I love about this show is that it allows queer characters to exist front and center while focusing on the light and joy that that aspect of their identity brings to the world, rather than centering the trauma that is too often associated with the community.
You've done the show twice too, right?
Yes.
But playing the same role. Has anyone else done the show?
Newbies.
You played Tracy before, or you played Rexy?
I played Rexy and Jason twice. I'm a little too young.
Oh, wow!
You were getting it hard today.
Oh my God!
Being thrown at me.
Somebody ate their sassy Rose.
Well, Porter, what do you think the show's about?
I think it's about an amazing drag queen.
Yes!
Named Georgia McBride.
Comes to school, a sad little boy of drag. No, I couldn't say it any better than Kevin already did. I mean, that's you know. We haven't mentioned Jim though. I feel like we should mention.
Oh, we should mention Jim.
Yes.
Who's Jim?
Jim Pickering was our amazing fifth cast member, fifth speaking cast member, who played my cousin Eddie, who is already on his way back to Milwaukee, where he lives. We also had two other cast members in this particular run, Matt and Austin, who were our ensemble members. And
Yes.
who we would not be able to do the show without.
Yeah.
He was absolutely vital to the
Our
show.
bar backs turned go-go boys.
Exactly.
One of my favorite moments when Rexy comes back in and like stops, sees the
Yes.
boys and
Yeah.
stops. And Jim, of course, is invaluable. He's like, what he does with that role is amazing. It like could be such a thankless role if you put in the hands of someone less skilled. Like,
No, Jim is a pro and made it
For real, for real.
absolutely his own,
Not
for
the
sure.
right way.
Yeah, I think it's also important because right now in the world, everyone is so wrapped up in drag and they love drag so much. And right now, the only access they have to it are the local bars or RuPaul's Drag Race. But those are only just, you know, certain dimensions. It's only, you know, where this show offers a story of a drag queen where you can hear, or like it offers a tale of how one becomes a drag queen, which I feel like people don't also know, you know, about the history of drag or where their personas came from and just how much it takes to create a persona and to go out there on stage every night, you know. So it's like we see the girls in the bars, we tip them and we love them, but then we see the girls on TV and we hear like the stories that are massively produced by the powers that be, but you don't necessarily just those are the only ones that you're hearing right now, unless you know a drag queen personally, you know. So this show really offers a peek into the looking glass, if you will, into this world with people who are familiar with it or only have certain sides of it. So.
Wow, we all
Savannah's speaking first.
Think about it.
Well, but at the same time, you're the one who always, I mean, no, you're not the one. You're the, yeah.
Oh, I get with you.
You have so much time in between your scenes to think about it.
We've become very comfortable as
my
Savannah and I have become very comfortable.
Yes.
How smelly are her feet really?
Actually, what's shocking, so there's a scene in which I rub her feet and I'm like, they smell. And as someone who, I am someone who does smell, like generally, I'm a very slick human being, especially throughout the process of this show, I sweat. Savannah is odorless. Like, I remember that first time that you took off your shoes and I'm like, okay, is this gonna be embarrassing for either one of us? Like, I'm gonna have to be like, ew, your feet, and then like rub them. And never once have I even had a whiff of anything.
That's amazing.
I mean, it's really a gift.
I'm very. Oh, it's over now.
I mean, we've touched so much.
Yes.
We've shared so many.
If one of you has it, both of you have it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But yeah, you are pristine.
Oh, thank you so
Your
much.
hygiene is.
Is this your favorite moment from the process?
This is my favorite moment. It's official. Oh my gosh.
He had some lotion when he was.
Oh my. What is my favorite moment? I mean, my favorite moment is always, even though it's the most stressful, is tech. Like, seeing everything come together, seeing the costumes. You know, when you're in a rehearsal hall, you kind of have an idea and you're playing with like stand-ins of what all of those things are going to be. But to see them all come together is amazing, and like continued to amaze me, because during my time off stage, I would oftentimes, like even here, I would be in the corner watching the show, and when we were in Milwaukee, I was always watching the show. It was very rare that I was actually just sitting in my dressing room. I would change as quick as I could to watch the show because I love it so much, and
yeah, that was one of the things that I really appreciated about Savannah. Like, even though she, like, it would have time off, she would be backstage in the wings, like, watching. So, like, we would be performing, and I see, like, a little blue, like, out the corner of my eyes. And, like, I'll just be like, you know, even like sometimes I'm like, the audience isn't with me, I'll just be like, I'm gonna give this to Savannah.
That's real.
What about you, Porter?
You know, what I really loved about this process was the kind of, like, teamwork aspect of it. Our amazing director, Meredith McDonough, and our fantastic choreographer, David Roman, both of them, like, approached this with truly with a, who's got the best idea in the room kind of attitude. And because, you know, they were relying on actual professional drag queens to help build it, they were really very much like, okay, well, what would you do here? What would this be, kind of thing? And so, like, something that sticks out in my mind is, like, there was a rehearsal happening where Savannah and Kevin were working on a scene with Meredith, and David and I were tasked with putting together a number in another room. And we went to go do that, and I was like, oh, but we don't know quite which cut of the song we're doing yet. We'd come up with the song, but not. So, you know, so we ran back in the room, we're like, we borrowed Meredith for a second, and the three of us kind of got together, okay, well, this cut worked good, okay, can you take this home and cut this? Great, fantastic. So, like, this, kind of the way that all fit together, it was the Irish number, like, the way that you know, input from all of us happening to create this brand new experience that, for all of us, was really, really great. The numbers, as Kevin likes to say in their pre-show talks, every time this show is done, it has a completely different soundtrack. So the only songs that come with this show are Padam Padam, which is an Edith Piaf song, and the song that Casey sings.
But even that, the music is not written. Right.
Oh, there's no music.
Lindsay wrote that music. It's just the lyrics.
Really?
Yes.
I had no idea of that.
Yeah, that's why there are 4 chords.
Oh, okay. Amazing. These are the chords like Kevin knows.
Yeah, no, it's just those lyrics, and they hardly know them. Yeah, just the lyrics. So the only song is Padam Padam.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. So learning them something new every day.
Yeah.
So it was really fun to create that with this team, and I mean, obviously Meredith came in with a really strong direction for everything. But we all had input in where, well, I think my character is this. We all had conversations long before rehearsal started with, you know. So this production is fresh because it comes from each of us. Mm-hmm. And there are further restrictions on Casey because Casey.
Well, Casey's a country queen,
right?
Or like it's suggested
rockabilly kind of
yes.
sensibility, so it has to kind of be there.
But we chose all our own songs.
Yeah.
And what I love about this show as well is that like this show runs about an hour 45 with no intermission, but deceptively it's about 55 pages long.
Yeah.
The script is very thin, but it's once you put all the drag in that it actually becomes this full-fledged like musicale. And one of those moments, so I've done this show thrice now, and all of them have obviously had their unique discography, different songs for the different queens. But something that I've never witnessed at all is this rehearsal montage that was sort of a brainchild of Corder and Meredith. There's this scene. There's this scene that begins, and the stage direction's just like Casey's rehearsing a Madonna song. It doesn't go well. Tracy turns off the boombox.
Yeah.
And we decided to make it into this whole rehearsal montage.
The diva montage.
The diva montage, in which Tracy and Casey are going through all these different divas to try to like train him, right? You know, and watching him basically throw everything in the wall and failing as a means to Armand's point earlier, demonstrate that this is difficult. That like drag is not something that you just like throw on a pair of heels and you did it, you know? That like people put, you know, blood, sweat, and tears into creating these personas. So that rehearsal montage is one of my favorite moments from the show because it is wholly unique to this production.
Yeah, it was very collaborative too. I mean, I wasn't in it, but like it was just like Meredith was just sort of like took Casey's rant. Like I've been rehearsing and we're like, what are some of their like most famous songs? And then how can we find this like thread line? And then I was like, oh, Rihanna, Umbrella, Rain on My Parade, like Barbara, and then that's sort of how like it all kind of start to melt together.
Absolutely. Cool.
But I mean, that's a beautiful thing about our show is that every single moment has like a bit of our DNA on it, you know, and having us. Having drag artisans, but also just people who are like part of the gig world and doing, you know, the chitlin circuit, but like, you know, just doing like shows.
Well, you're all part of the gig world just by virtue of being an actor, right?
Yeah, but it's just like doing shows outside of conventional like plays, you know what I'm saying, and going to bars and doing poetry readings or like singing songs and like, you know,
never knowing what you're walking into.
Never knowing what you're walking into, and I think having that knowledge and that experience and bringing it to this show is extremely helpful, and also I think just offers more of that like, you know, experience to the audience and the people watching it who are probably, you know, years from it.
I mean, to Meredith McDonough's credit, she was incredibly keen from the jump on hiring professional drag queens that were drag queens in addition to actors for this show. And again, having done it a few times over now, it makes a world of difference. Like the expertise that both Corder and Armand were able to offer, as well as Patrick Holt, our costume designer, who's better known as their drag persona Tempest Azure, like having their combined knowledge in regards to drag, drawing from so many different styles and camps of drag, has made this production incredibly unique and also, I think, more true to life for people who are familiar with the drag scene who come and see a show like this.
Yeah, I mean, Casey mentions a lot of things that he discovers as he is becoming Georgia McBride, and I think it's a lot of things that most straight men in our society, because of the patriarchy, have a hard time accessing, and a lot of people suffer because of that. A lot of people in relationships with them suffer because of it, and so I can only imagine that the relationship becomes stronger because now all of a sudden he has access to these things, which I'm assuming were, well, not assuming, which were frustrations for Joe before.
So my drag persona's name is Cacophony Daniels, and that comes from I've often said that cacophony came from my need to find an outlet for my physical voice. You can probably tell watching this that I have an odd voice. It's a unique voice is maybe a better way to put it. I'm loud and all of those things. And so cacophony comes from that. A cacophony is a live singing drag queen. So when I perform, I sing live. preferably with a live band or piano, but sometimes with a track as necessary. Because in performing as an actor and as a boy, I was very much pigeonholed into very certain kinds of roles and things like that. And but I felt like I had so much more to offer, to give. Plus, when you're an actor, you are not always employed, and so Cacophony was a way to not only make more money when I was unemployed, but also be a performance outlet when I was unemployed. So that's kind of how and why she was born, and why she continues to exist. Plus, Armand and I have both talked about this in previous talkbacks, where once I embraced Cacophony and was able to really put her out into the world, not as a separate entity from myself, but as part of what I do as a performer, I was able to find more avenues to be a performer, like this show. If I was, in the closet, as it were, about being a drag queen as well, like say to my agents, they wouldn't have known to submit me for this. So they wouldn't have known that I should be doing this kind of thing. Once I kind of let those worlds kind of both come together, I found that I could get more work and things like that.
Yes, so my drag name is Cleo Apocalypse. And Cleo came to me around the time that I was just going through like a spiritual dark period. And I was also in a psychic school at the time. So I was taking these... What? Yes, I was in a clairvoyance class training, and...
Harry Potter?
Was that? Like, yeah, it was totally like Hogwarts, but for psychics. It was really awesome. And I was always apprehensive to do drag because I was always because I was Black and effeminate and an actor, I thought that was kind of expected of me, was to put on a dress and some makeup. And so I didn't necessarily, so I was always apprehensive to do it. And then I was also in a show at the time where I was playing a half of Milli Vanilli.
Were you Milli or Vanilli?
I was, well, neither one of their names was Milli or Vanilli. It was Fabrice Morvan and Rob. And so I was Fabrice Morvan. And so I was the French one. The other one was Swedish, yes. So I had to like wear a wig and makeup for Milli Vanilli. And so I was like, I had this makeup and I was just like at home and I was just like, this was also around the time that like YouTube tutorials were just starting. So I remember watching like one tutorial and I was like, maybe I'll try like doing my makeup. And so I was also telling this to my teacher at the Clairvoyance Hogwarts. And he was like, oh my God, you should be like a drag queen that does psychic readings. And I was like, ooh, like Miss Cleo. And so there was that. And then when I first painted my face, I thought that I looked like Cleopatra because I had these huge like cat eyes. And so I was like, okay, so Cleo is there. And I was like, but I need something to sort of like offset this sort of like jovial like personality that I have. And it was also around the time Lady Gaga's song Marry the Night came out, and it talks about like how you have to marry your light with your dark side, you know? And I was like, okay, so my name should have something that does with like darkness or like destruction or something. And I was like, oh, like an apocalypse, you know? And apocalypse is that, it's chaos and destruction to create room for rebirth. And that's kind of like what I was going through in my life, and so that's how I came up with Cleo Apocalypse. Yeah, I did have that moment as well that Corder talked about. Once I started doing drag, the acting started to come along with it, you know? And when I started doing drag professionally, like, I also became a full-time actor and started to get bigger gigs from it, you know? And that wasn't necessarily just drag, it was just like Armand, you know? I definitely feel that like, as my confidence grew in drag, my confidence grew in me.
So I came up with the persona of Anna Tefka, which is a Fiddler on the Roof reference, because I am Jewish, and I was like, I'm gonna do this Jewish drag persona where she's sort of this like slutty shtetl booby. But under the wings of both Cacophony and Cleo, I hope to be debuting a new persona soon.
After the plague.
Yeah.
Yeah, after the plague.
When we've seen your debut.
We'll see, TBD. In the meanwhile, the feminist fashion magazine that my friend and I run, it's called Mujer, and we are doing a story on drag kings because drag kings should get some shine as well.
Yeah.
Amen. It was the best because they brought that kind of Yas Queen attitude to the show that we needed for those drag numbers, and for it was sometimes difficult in this space to convince the audience to come along with us and be part of the show, because the audience plays a character in the show. In the drag numbers, they are the drag audience at Cleo's, so they have a role to play, and the teens were right there playing that role, which was great because we got all the feedback that we wanted.
What I love about the audiences of The Legend of Georgia McBride and like what the alchemy that takes place because of the people that it attracts is that those teens, some of whom I would stand to reason are a little bit more inundated with drag culture or queer culture at large, are actively teaching those around them like how to be a participatory member of this experience, so that you can see in real time this cultural exchange across generations, and it's really wonderful to be sort of a conductor of that exchange through something as like wild and fun as drag. Down the line?
Down the line.
Down the line.
Oh boy, that's hard, but probably, okay, the gold kind of disco number that I got to wear, it was the easiest thing to put on and take off, and it was also, is it hanging up there? No, it's not there. It's not there. It was just gold, but like plunging neckline, which I love a plunging neckline. And the hair, thank you. And the hair was easy to wear. It was all kind of just like easy to wear. And the best part about it was the audience, especially in that moment, had no idea what I would have performed in that outfit. It was just something that I wore, like comes off stage wearing outfit, and the audience is like, "What's that? It's amazing!" But
yeah, often you would come on stage and the scene would begin, and people would just be like clapping or gasping just for the outfit.
Oh, what's that?
What did you perform, Moss? What were you performing?
I like to think that it was some kind of like ABBA kind of thing going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Cher we didn't get.
Or the Cher that's not ABBA and Cher are never mentioned
I know.
in the show. It's
Both
crazy.
productions I did prior did have ABBA and Cher.
Of course, because it's drag.
It's drag. Yeah.
All right, favorite outfit, baby.
My favorite outfit was probably Rexy's entrance look.
Yes.
This purple fur with the purple cutoffs, and the fishnet,
and the fluorescent green,
and the fluorescent green with the fishnet top over it, and the fishnet gloves, and my scorpion ring.
That almost got that. I think they asked you to cut twice, but you just kept wearing it.
Because Rexy's a Scorpio, she's hard-headed like that. and then the braided mohawk piece.
Yeah, so beautiful. So good.
And the purple lip. It was a lot of things going on.
That's super cute.
That.
Well, I have two, because I have so many. I can wear so many things. I mean, the first is the Wonder Woman, because I just love doing Wonder Woman, as much as like the cape is crazy and my tuck is so meaty. It's like,
there are too many snakes on this goddamn plane.
It's like my genitals are loud in this. But I love the Wonder Woman, but the rose gold jumpsuit that I wear when I sing the song in this one. I mean, it's shout out to Paul Tobin, our lighting designer, because like the way that garment sparkles when those lights happen is just like delicious.
But also shout out to the Milwaukee rep costume people who built that.
Yes, this was built.
Yeah.
Yes, so a lot some of these pieces were used in prior productions, all designed by Patrick Holt, but like this was built for this show, and it is stunning.
It is.
It is stunning.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm supposed to say my finale outfit, but really,
favorite.
Yes, but no, really, my favorite is a tie. My top of show, which is just like a simple denim top. But the reason that I love it, or the jeans, it is so hard for me to shop for jeans just like in life generally. I have my mother's wonderful body, which is like a round booty and a small waist. And so every time I search for pants, like the waist never fits. And so it's just so nice to be in jeans and be comfortable. And every time I put them on, I'm like, oh, you look so good. So, so that, and then also the fact that I get to wear like casual, comfortable pajamas in this show. And it's also one of my longer breaks, so I would just like change into my slippers and my robe and everything and get tea and watch the show.
I'll jump in there because, you know, like getting to do this role twice. You know, when I first did this show, I wasn't as pronounced in my drag career, but playing Rexy definitely gave me that courage and that catalyst to go out there and slay all day. And like going out there in the world and being in the drag world and then getting to come back and do the role again with the newfound knowledge that I got from the first time that I played Rexy. It was, I mean, yeah, and just like Rexy's strength, like, even though Rexy and I have a lot in common as far as like our struggles with our demons, you know, and it's just sort of like, I admire her so much that, you know, she still brings light and like the comedy to every scene that she's in, and also just what it means to be a drag artist. And then, you know, to then be a drag artist and get sober, that's like, you know, unheard of sometimes. I mean, it's not unheard of, but it's just very rare in the drag community that there's a lot of people in the sober community as well. And so that's what I also want to take whenever I go do drag shows. It's just, I'm not like preaching or anything, but just also be like, hey, we can do this, we can have fun, we don't have to use intoxicants to like have a good time.
Well, from doing this show, I have a new love for the art of lip syncing. I've always loved it, and I've always loved being an audience member watching a queen do lip syncing. But because I sing live all the time, I have never really enjoyed doing it myself. But in helping to create this show and to playing this role, I have learned to have found a new love for it and a use for it in the world of, not that I ever thought it was useless, but like in the world of drag and what that is. It's brought new joy for that.
Will Cacophony ever be lip syncing?
I mean, there are always little elements of lip syncing in Cacophony's performances when there's like dialogue brought in from something pop culture or whatever. I don't know exactly. I don't know that I'll ever just like do a show where all I do is lip sync, because that wouldn't feel like it was me.
Don't deprive us of your voice. It's got pipes, yeah.
Tune in tomorrow. But I've found a new love for that, for sure.
Yeah, I was actually just sitting here thinking, I remember when we were in the middle of tech and Kevin asked me, do you think you would be friends with Jo? Oh. And I said, yeah, I would be her friend, and we would be having some real conversation about some of her choices. And so, I mean, in terms of what I learned, so what I learned by playing her, actually, I think is actually has more to do with our rehearsal process more than like Jo as a character, which is something that I've talked about other times, but it's just like a continuous lesson on consent, which was really important for us when we started putting this all together, and just realizing how much that applies in life, you know, and how, to me, it has become more simple and like a no-brainer, but it's something honestly that I don't know, as a woman like moving throughout the world, I'm very used to just going with the flow and like making sure that other people are happy, and being in a situation where someone else was making sure that I was comfortable was more eye-opening for me as a person. So I think that that's something that I gained from playing Jo. And then I would say, like in terms of Jo the character, I would say I learned something that's more applicable to relationships, which is just like, as much as sometimes I would read through the scenes between Casey and Joe and be like, there was also part of me that really loved how in love she was, and the forgiveness element that I think is part of why they, and also like Casey's ability to comfort her and be aware of her needs, like just getting to see that dynamic and have myself reminded of how important those things are.
I think I learned a lot. I think something that is really beneficial to remind myself of that I love about Casey is that he is incredibly optimistic, and Kevin is not.
What now?
Kevin is not. Kevin, I operate a little bit on like an anxiety-driven, nihilistic.
You called yourself the Eeyore the first day.
I am something of the Eeyore. And Casey really, I mean, in the first scene, he says he's like, because I know everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And like. And again, I have to, even in saying that out loud, I have to like take a step back and be like, don't judge that, Kevin. Because it's very easy to be like, that's a foolish way to walk through the world. But I think there is a lot of beauty in it. Because that optimism does facilitate him engaging in this art form to begin with. That if he was, that optimism, that sort of like willingness to explore the unknown, free of judgment, it opens so many doors for him, and I think that's really beautiful. That optimistic outlook really unlocks a lot for Casey, and something about Casey that I think reaffirms something I feel like I already knew is that there's so much to be learned by just listening. And engaging with communities of lived experiences outside of your own. That the way that we become better people, the way that we become better global citizens on the macro level, and better people to our loved ones and our partners on the micro level, is by our willingness to listen and learn from those who experience life in a way that differs from the way we experience life.
In Milwaukee, in Milwaukee I earned $121 in tips for the whole run, and I donated that money to a fantastic organization called Courage MKE, or Courage Milwaukee, which is a LGBTQ youth both foster facility and homeless shelter. And then here in Arizona, we didn't run for very long, but I think I made like shows, but there was one performance. I think I made like $20 or something. Which was
opening
great,
night was great.
Yeah. So, and now that I'm unemployed, I'm keeping it.
Yes. Okay. I made probably a little over 100 in Milwaukee, and towards the beginning of the run, I kept it, but then I was like, I would give the rest of my tips to the unpaid interns.
Oh, that's
the unpaid interns that were in our show that was like not getting.
Oh, you've been one of those interns at Milwaukee.
Yeah, I've been one of those interns too. So I was like, here you go. I remember like if I was an intern and got like $5 or $10 a night, I'd be like, yes, thank you. I can eat today. And then today, I mean, here I made like $15 one night, and I kept it. Oh, no, one night I did make $10, and I gave that to Kelsey, one of our dressers. So yes.
In Milwaukee, well, I feel like I should preface by saying that I have the most numbers that I'm able to get tips. I made $266. And then I used that to tip out my dressers and buy them gifts.
Yes.
That's really lovely.
Yes.
Sure.
There's just a close-up of my angry face. I did, especially in Milwaukee, because the way the stage was set up, I could actually get some cash during our finale. I think I maybe made like $15, and that went to to our dressers for the one quick change that I had, and then also to anytime these queens had shows and I had dollars.
That's right.
Right, yeah. I also, that happened too. But also, what I feel like is important to mention is I've never seen someone get so excited to be handed a single as Jim Pickard.
Yes!
So Jim as Eddie gets into sort of a pseudo quick drag for the finale. So, you know, he's in a beautiful purple dress, he has his kitten heels on, he has a wig on, he's feeling himself. And I remember the first night that there was like active tippers during the finale, Jim like lost his mind. He like almost like elbow checked out of the way so he could have singles in the audience. He was living for it. And again, it just goes to show that you could start drag anytime in your life. You should absolutely get into it. And that that it just inspires such joy.
Awards. Oh.
Most congenial is definitely definitely Corda.
Little Miss Sunshine. She's able to find the silver lining.
I was gonna say you need to get her on a spin team because it's like, I can't sometimes.
Also, the level of patience and grace is I aspire to.
I'm so grateful to you all for saying that because I just feel like a giant bitch sometimes. So I'm really
never once ever. Like even when you're throwing shade, it's like also sometimes a compliment.
Oh my gosh. That's so sweet. I mean, I think Shavannah needs some kind of award for like the best attitude at question and answer sessions like this. Because no one ever wants to ask Shavannah about her opinion about anything. She never gets the kind of love. There was that, I feel like there was the one comment where it was like, how did it feel that you didn't get to wear pretty clothes?
Yeah, I was like, what is it like to have the most boring costumes?
Also, we would do like full-on Q&A sessions for like 30 minutes where we would all get all the questions and it would just be like, and then there's Shavannah. So like most make me like thankless role, I guess. But just the best, most bright, shining person.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's the most bright, shining person.
I will accept it.
I would say like best little kid sister. Like
best wife. Although we do get divorced, I think like a few times a week.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
But we make up.
We do. I don't remember why I last divorced you.
I think that if there was an award for the best like exit applause, entrance applause, all of those things, it would definitely go to Armand.
Yes, that is true.
Yes, because I mean, you get fantastic exit lines written for you, but you have to earn that love from the audience, and you absolutely did.
Absolutely.
Every single time.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
That one last scene, there's no exit line. But I made it an exit line.
Yeah.
So I was like, move it!
I love it.
See, most actors would just say, boo bitch is an exit line. Not this one.
Yes. Armand is definitely best older sibling, but also like best show mother, because especially when we were in tech in Milwaukee, I'd be like, I don't have lotion, I don't have this, I don't have, and Armand always has this massive backpack that has everything you can need. It's true. Always.
You need every
Well, they're psychic. They trained to be a psychic.
Yes, that's true.
So psychics are prepared.
Yes, always.
For apocalypse.
Absolutely.
What award would Kevin get?
Best worst snacks? No. I was like, if I see them eat more carrots,
she's throwing shade at me because I'm a healthy snack. I eat healthy snacks.
They do eat healthy. They do.
I would say like
it's not. None of them are going to be positive. I'm telling you now.
No. This is a positive one. I would say like most absolutely willing to like completely go there in a situation where you like have zero
skill.
control. No, you have skill, but like zero control and just like literally dive into anything. Like, oh, you want me to kick my face? I don't know if I ever have, but sure. Well, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You want me to ride the stage? Okay. You want me to take off all my clothes in this photo call because someone forgot my clothes? Sure, no problem.
Oh my god.
Like, like just like willing to
Yeah.
like go for it within your character, to like commit in that way so hard, and like have the white. I mean, you had to have the whitest swing from Casey to Georgia at her height, and like be willing to go there for all those things, and yeah, just like complete like. Oh, I didn't even realize I was naked because I was just in the moment. Like, you know, like all that is so admirable to me because I would be constantly trying to control these things from behind and like just completely going there. And also just putting up with like the craziest stuff being thrown at you because you did have the craziest changes and like all those things. I mean, great, you had some crazy changes, but like yours would like boom, 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 crazy change, crazy change, crazy change, crazy change, like just in a row. The fact that you could put up with all of that in such a like congenial, wonderful way, and like, and you know, yeah, so many things that you know.
I would say most disciplined though. That was why.
Oh my gosh, very disciplined.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
And-
very disciplined.
And like ambassador for your entire community.
Yes,
as
that's-
we've all been at different times,
Yeah.
but especially because you were the forward-facing person for the talks that we had in Milwaukee that we didn't get to have here in Arizona. That were all about educating the audience, but the audience wanting education from you about so many things that weren't about the show specifically, but about you and your community and like. And our community, of course, but like you just having to be this like instant mouthpiece for everyone, and the grace with which you took that, and the charge with which you like, yes, okay, I'm going to educate this group of people. Like that's so wonderful.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, to go with that also just like. That also is applied outside of that setting, whether you are getting to watch your poetry or going through a script, and like Kevin will, especially for, and like, how do I put this? Especially for certain characters, Kevin does a really great job of being like, why would they say that? Or like, this is why this isn't useful, and I think that's really helpful. Like. And it actually amazes me that they're able to like constantly have like all of these like thoughts or like balls in the air, like juggling these like different parts of their stuff.
I mean, that's why I like working in regional theater is that you get to plug yourself into so many communities across the country, and I am always thinking of ways in which the work can extend beyond the way we just share our work on stage. That if we let it begin and end when the curtain comes up and comes down, that we're not really doing our jobs. And I've been so grateful that my 2 times here at ATC have been in shows like Things That Know to Be True and The Legend of Georgia McBride that allow patrons an insight into different aspects of the LGBTQ community, but again through such different narratives that just shows the breadth of experience of these people of our community, and it was Things That Know to Be True was one of my favorite things I've ever worked on, and The Legend of Georgia McBride, which we hope to be able to bring back, I think is again an example of how much joy and light we also have to offer. Yeah.
I am Arizona Theatre Company.
You are Arizona Theatre Company.
We are Arizona Theatre Company.